I'd like to welcome everyone tonight to the debut of the Single-Handed Chef. I'm Michael Irwin. I am the founder of the Stroke Recovery Foundation. I am very excited to be here. Tonight we are collaborating with the Senior Center of Wake Forest, and we're using their facility and we're very excited about them. We are in a partnership with them, and they are providing great assistance and support. Aaron Vaughen was a recipient of Believe about 2 years ago, and he has progressed just tremendously. I think you will see tonight that he is a first-class chef, and he wants to give back to the stroke community. We hope that you enjoy the teaching of the class, and it is for anybody that wants to learn to cook. Sit back and enjoy the show.
All right. So, we made a little popcorn to start for people, and what we're going to do after that is we're going to make a little grilled chicken. We're going to do a pan, so it won't be like grilled on the grill. I prefer charcoal, but we're going to make a lemon chicken basil pesto pasta bake. Something real simple. I'm trying to make real simple recipes for people because I only have one hand. There's my demographic. I say to people is disabled people, people with broken arms, without a limb, a mother with a baby on her hip, or just if you have two hands, you just don't know how to cook. So I'm trying to do it for everybody. I don't want to be just pigeonholed into one thing. A little bit of me, about 1 year and 8 months ago, I had a brain abscess and I lost the use of my right side. And I've slowly been getting back. I mean, last year at this point, I was on a wheelchair, so I've been getting better. Like Michael said, I've been very fortunate to progress. I've been able to drive, which a lot of people in these situations sometimes don't get their vision back. My vision is not 100%, but it's good enough to drive. So we're gonna get right to it. We're going to grill the chicken first, just to kind of get that out of the way, because we're gonna put it in the pasta. That way it can cool down. And so what I did is I just bought some chicken breasts from Wegmans. You can see it over here. Some thinly cut chicken breasts. And what I do is a little bit of oil. A little bit of salt. You want to keep it very simple because we're going to put it in the dish with the pesto, and it's going to have a lot of flavor in that. So I just like, when I grill, I just like to keep things really simple. So because I only have one hand, I got a nice little electric pepper mill. And that's it. And then just mix it up. And so then once you got that going, and you can see it's a really thin chicken, and there's not much on that, so it's very, light seasoning. You don't want to go over season it. So I'm using a cast iron skillet, and so with a cast iron, you want to put it on at least a half hour before you use it to let it heat up. It's a good conductor of heat. The only problem is it is a little bit heavy, so be wary if you're a little weak. Get someone to help you. You can also get thinner pans. Just be careful because it'll burn a lot easier. So let me wash my hands. And because they're thin, they'll cook really quickly. And that's by design. Because you can do a little thicker, and if you do get a thicker chicken breast, you want to mark it on each side, so that mark that everybody loves, and when you do it like that, you go 90 degrees, put that nice little triangle on there. It looks pretty, but it's also functional, because what you're doing is you're cooking it for a certain amount of time on one side, then you go on another side. And so if it was thicker, just mark it, put it on a pan, then put it in the oven. unless you want a little char, then just leave it in there, turn the pan down just a little bit lower, and then you don't have to worry about it. But this will cook rather quickly. But I'll show you. So you want to just take it and turn it to get the grill marks. It's nice to have 2 pairs of tongs, or you can just wash it after each time, because that way you're not dealing with the raw chicken and the cooked chicken. Because you want to be safe with raw meats. And I'll let you know also, with this dish, it can be vegan, vegetarian. If you want, you just leave the chicken out. You can use vegetable stock instead of that. You can add, if you want it, you can add mushrooms. I know the one lady was allergic to mushrooms, but you can add that to make a little meatier. You can add in a veggie protein as well. And we'll let that cool before we cut it, and we'll go to make the pesto. And that's all you really need right there. You can also buy it. I bought this from Wegmans because they actually have a decent pesto. And you'll see that when I do mine, I won't have pine nuts in it. So I do that because there's a lot of people that are allergic to nuts. And so I just got used to making it without it. And now it's just kind of, I like it better. But Wegmans has a really good pesto. So while she's finishing that up, we'll come over here and we'll make the pesto. So this cutting board was given to me by Michael about a week ago, so I'm just getting used to it. But the thing I like about this is the nails hold it so I can cut. So there's certain things I can do in the kitchen, there's certain things I can't do. And that's what the rubber bands too. So if I go to cut something, I can put like a carrot under these rubber bands and holds it in place. Garlic I don't have too much trouble with because all you do is press with your hand. And then you want to cut off the nubs. You can also buy pre-peeled garlic. I'll do about 3 cloves. And be careful, there's bad spots on garlic. Just make sure you cut it out. If it's rotten, it's rotten. So, put your garlic in. Ludi pre-picked the basil. Make sure you pick the basil off and there's no stems. You just have the leaves. And just jam it. Jam it all in here. Pick off any bad leaves if you see any. Lemon juice. And either going with a fork, what I do is I put it against my hand, I squeeze, that way the seeds don't go out. That's not gonna say I always don't get a seed in there, but sometimes I do. Going with a little bit of oil. A little bit of Parmesan. Some pepper. Do a little bit of salt in the beginning. Go in with a little bit more lemon, a little bit more oil. All right, then once you get a nice little, you can just taste it, see if it needs anything else. A little bit more oil, plenty of lemon and Parmesan. But I just want to loosen up a little bit. And now we have pesto. And you can put pine nuts in there, and if you do your pine nuts, just make sure you roast them. You can roast them in the oven, or you can put them in a saute pan on low until they get kind of gold brown and beautiful. All right, so now Bring my lemon back over here. Now I'm going to cut an onion. So the beautiful thing about these cutting boards is the nails. They really help out a lot. Make it a lot easier to cut. So even, you know, normal people are like, man, I want a cutting board to hold things. And because this is really good for people that are just learning how to cook, because it holds everything in place. Some people are scared of knives. I was in the beginning, and this just makes it a little bit easier. And so you can either wedge it in like that, then you just dice it up. Now, my old chef would have fired me for these knife cuts, but when you're dealing with what I've been dealing with, it's all right. All right. So we have our pesto, we have our onions cut, we have our tomatoes washed, we have our stock. I cheated a little bit. I went ahead, I did a little movie magic or whatever. I went ahead and pre-cooked the pasta. I used, you know, this kind of pasta from Barilla. You can use whatever you like. And you want to work with a hot pan. A lot of people, one of the biggest mistakes at home is they work with a cold pan and they go, why can't I get any color? My vegetables are soft and soggy. If you go, you don't want it to be burning. So you want it to be hot, but not scorched. And you'll know, just throw some water in it, and if it makes a sound, then it's too hot. Either pull it to the side. If you have electric, if you have gas, just turn it down. The beautiful thing about gas is it can quickly turn up and down very easily, more than electric. Electric takes a second, you know, unless you have induction. Induction is a beautiful conductor of heat. So just go over like this and go back on. And then just put your hand in it. You know, you'll know, and you can lightly touch it. It's starting to get warm. So then you go in with a little bit of oil. And just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. You don't want it swimming. You just want enough to coat the bottom of the pan. And you can also tell how hot it gets by how quickly your oil moves in the pan. So it's starting to get a little bit nicer. Well, while we're waiting, we'll cut the chicken. And this will be very easy. You're just doing bite-sized pieces. And chicken cuts so easily. Just take your time, cut it however you want. You want strips? You want small pieces like this? If you want whole chicken breasts, you can throw it, you can do that as well, whichever you prefer. That's the thing about cooking, and if there's something you don't like, switch it out. All right, so our chicken is ready to go. You go wash my hand real quick. All right, so there we are with that. Start with 1 thing of tomatoes. 2. And the cool thing about these is they'll blister and they'll pop, and I love it because it's like a little gusher. You know, you got to be careful because it can be a little hot sometimes. And then go in with a little salt and pepper. And don't use Himalayan salt. I read it. My sister had me read an article, and it was saying that they're saying that it's not necessarily bad for you, but it's not necessarily good for you. So, because most of the Himalayan salt, it doesn't come from an ocean. You know, sea salt comes from an ocean. So sea salt is the best for you. Kosher salt is what I'm using right here. That's what almost every restaurant uses. And if they do use sea salt, they'll use like a Maldan flake and they'll sprinkle sea salt on the top. That's better for you, and it's a lot better. All right, so I'm gonna go in with a little bit of vinegar to hopefully steam this a little bit because it's just taking forever. And that'll go nicely with the pesto and the stock and the chicken. I think home ovens heat up faster than this, don't they? But that's the thing about cooking too is, I mean, Ludi can attest. If the oven goes down, if something goes up, you just have to figure out another way. The cool thing about cooking is you can always make it work. It might not be exactly what you thought it would be. Baking, you can't do. Baking, if anything goes off, it's a mistake. There's some things you can do in baking that is okay, but cooking, you can adapt. Like, well, okay, this didn't work. What else can I do? You know, did I add too much sugar? Did my oven go out? Is it not too hot? Figure something out, you know. And you can also add spinach, arugula, kale, any kind of green if you want to add something else to this. And you can I'd put that in right at the end when you go to bake it because it'll wilt in the oven. Now, well, let's let that cook a little bit longer. Thicken it up, put a little Parmesan in there. That'll kind of flavor it up, plus it'll thicken it up a little bit. But you can see right here, the tomatoes bursting, and that's what you want, the skin to kind of come off. You can smell the Parmesan. Now go in with the chicken. And you want to go in with that juice too. And then just stir it up. Now we'll go in with the pesto. Want to help me a little bit with the spring? That's one advantage that I don't have at home. Sometimes it's so hard to scrape everything out with just one hand. All right. So now you have this nice green pesto. Anything is delicious. All right. Now you want to go in with your pasta. Yeah, this was a whole pound, but I'm not going to use it all because, wow. You get a little bow tie. And you could eat it just like this. The sauce will heat up the pasta, or you can, what we're going to do is I'm going to put a little Parmesan on top and bake it. Oh, and I forgot, the secret ingredient, a little crushed red pepper. You don't want it to be spicy, but it'll add a little zing to it. You can put that in your pesto, or you can put that in when you saute your onions. All right. Then you put it in the Pyrex dish or whatever pan, and then just sprinkle a little cheese on top. And then you put it in the oven. I think we're done. Let's look and see. Oh yeah. That's what you want. We don't have a broiler, and I wish with that convection was working, we can get a little bit more color, but that's what you want. And when you're dealing with nicer cheese, it just doesn't, it melts differently. But you have a little bit of sauce from the chicken stock, balsamic, and pesto. And that's it. There you go. And then try a little bit. And I'll probably burn my mouth. The vinegar, the pesto. It's a great spring dish. It's light. You can add arugula, you can add spinach to it if you want. But that's it. Chicken pesto pasta, baked. Single-handed chef. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you all for coming out. We appreciate it. Thank you, Jacob. Let's come on, flip it around. That's Jacob. He's making all this magic happen. It'll probably a couple weeks before this will actually be on my page, but hopefully you enjoyed it live. We had a little hiccups here and there with the live and then the burner, but I think we figured it out now, so next time should be a little bit smoother. This was our first time doing something like this, but I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Michael. Really making my dreams come true, and I really appreciate this. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Senior Center for allowing us in the kitchen.
And thank you, Produce Project. They're one of my sponsors as well. It's a little produce company in Raleigh, and really check them out. ProduceProject.com. So that's it. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you next time. Single-handed chef out.